I now turn to Senator Van Hollen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank all of you for being here today to talk about this very important subject. And clearly, housing affordability is a huge issue everywhere in our country. I hear about it all the time in the state of Maryland. And the lack of adequate supply is a big piece of that, and we need to look for more ways to incentivize and encourage more supply. It's also very important, in my view, that we continue to support the rental assistance programs like the Housing Choice Voucher Program. I've introduced a bipartisan bill along with Senator Todd Young of Indiana. It's entitled the Family Stability and Opportunity Vouchers Act, and what it does is make use of the Housing Choice Vouchers combined with wraparound services for families with young children. And there's been ample research, including by Raj Chetty, that indicates that when you provide families with that opportunity to move to greater areas of greater opportunity, both the housing component as well as wraparound services, you see significant breaks in generational poverty. Ms. Bailey, I know that you've looked at these issues broadly, the Housing Choice Voucher Program, the impact on making sure that kids have a secure place to call home. Could you comment on why it's important both to maintain that, but also to look at providing these wraparound services for families with young kids?
Yeah, absolutely, Senator. And this actually ties well to Senator Braun's question as well, right? We have to remember that there's a cost to doing nothing as well. There's a cost to families and to kids and to people who are living unhoused on the street to doing nothing that oftentimes isn't talked about. We also talk about affordable housing as purely a issue of homelessness. It is a larger issue than that. Many people are currently housed. If we gave them a little bit more assistance to be able to afford where they live today, then that also controls the affordability crisis as well. And that stems into how the role that housing can play in children's lives. We know that children with stable housing do better in school, in the long run, as Dr. Chetty's work shows, earn more as adults. And it's the wraparound services that are the secret sauce to that. Being able to help families connect to childcare locally, being able to help families navigate the school system, and staying with families for as long as they need it, and even if and as flexibly as they need services is a key component of that.
Well, I appreciate that. So Senator Young and I pushed a number of years ago to create a pilot program to help these families with young kids move to areas of greater opportunity with those wraparound services. And it very quickly demonstrated what the research has shown, which is this is a way to help break the cycle of poverty, which is why we propose to expand that particular program by 250,000 vouchers over the next 5 years. As we indicated, all of you have indicated in your testimony, supply is another major factor here. In December of last year, Axios estimated, based on data from the Census Bureau and Moody's, that there's a shortage of around 3.2 million housing units relative to population demand in the United States. I know in my home state of Maryland, we're talking about a shortage of at least 96,000 units. There are a number of programs designed to help address the supply thing. You've all mentioned the low-income housing tax credit piece. There's also the Home Investment Partnership Program, CDBG. If you could, Ms. Ventura and maybe Mr. Boyce, just speak briefly to how those programs can help expand the supply of housing and therefore improve the situation with respect to affordability.
They are the programs that you mentioned, the Home Program, the Capital Magnet Fund, the National Housing Trust, are all critically important programs, and we use them in partnership with the 9% credits, the 4% housing credits. Without those resources, we would not have the numbers that we have in Rhode Island in terms of production and preservation of housing. So They are terrific programs. We hope for more resources to be invested in these programs so that we can do more for
Thank
the
you.
people of our state. Thank you.
Mr. Boyce?
Thank you for the question, Senator. I would just add to Carol's comments that CDBG funds, in particular in home funds, I know in Franklin County, have allowed us to use those funds to invest in infrastructure dollars that often can tie directly into a specific development to reduce the cost of rent or the cost of purchase on those homes. And so, to me, that's a direct correlation to the ability to access more affordable and quality housing. The other point I would like to raise is just that it allows us as counties to think about the public infrastructure, ranging from roads and streets to public transit access, and even planning of medical resources, medical institutions, and so forth. And so all of those are things that we as county commissioners take into account when we're planning out the growth or development of certain corridors within our community.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.